Welcome to the iCatch Network meeting. This is the iCatch Network. You requested that Sheevaun Thompson join us. So Sheevaun, we're delighted to have you here with us tonight. And the floor is yours.
Hello, Liz, and hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation to the iCatch Network meeting tonight. It's a great privilege and honour to be invited. I suppose I just want to say at the outset that some of you in this virtual room will know more than me when it comes to funding and funding opportunities and applying for funding. So you may not learn anything new. I hope you do, and you can share your knowledge with us if you do. I've spent the last few days researching and looking up stuff and trying to bring everything up to speed in between grant drawdown claims. So it has been fairly busy, and there may be something that I've missed. So please bear with me if I have, and feel free to correct me or to come in at any stage if you want to ask a question or if you want to maybe make an observation or, discuss something. So can you all see my screen there now?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Liz, will you send these around afterwards, the copy of the slides or whatever?
yeah, I'll actually send the presentation to you after this, Liz.
That'd be great, Sheevaun. Thanks for
I might see some spelling mistakes as I'm going along, Chris. You'd never know, because it was I was chopping and changing it about 5 minutes ago. So, oops, sorry now. So the first opportunity I want to get is just to promote our own fund. It's open now at the minute, and you can access it on our website. Now, all of you here are familiar with it, and you've all applied to it before, so it won't be any news to you how to apply. We've actually decided to run a clinic in January, the week of the 10th of January, just to go through the portal and how to use it, because some people might forget, you would all have registered before, but it'll be now you'll have to just go back into it. And it'll just be a little session. I might pre-record that session and have it available on our website, just a 2 or 3 minute clip. But then we will have a little session just to go through the few basics. You were mostly at our conference on the 20th of November, so you'll know that the deadline is the 8th of February, and it's all done online. And there's a few tips there to click the link into your favorites and to save the draft as you go along. Now, I have made the Word version of the application form available on our website, because last year a lot of people wanted that so that they could put their information into that and then copy and paste it into the portal. So it just gives you a safety net and a blanket, maybe if anything goes wrong, that you have it there. But don't worry, because the portal, I can see everything at the back end. I can't see it until you submit it, but I can add anything, so you can't wipe it out. Once you've saved it, it's there. So who can apply? All of you in this room here can apply. You must be a not-for-profit community and voluntary group. Actually, we had a phone call today from a school, could they apply? And I said yes, if they linked up with a community group in their area. Really, we're not going to not accept the school's application, but they wouldn't receive high priority unless they were linking in with a community group. We have to make it specific to the Republic of Ireland only and not for individuals. Again, last year we got some artists applying, and you need to have a community bank account, so that's one of the stipulations of it. And we want to get all grants drawn down. There's been a bit of dragging of heels in terms of grants that are still there since last year, and even some since 2019, that groups haven't been able to draw down. I don't think anybody in this room here tonight falls into that category, so you're able to apply, but there's a few groups under pressure to draw down their grants because they might not be able to deliver due to COVID. So we're giving extensions to some of those grants, but it means that they will be precluded from applying under this year's scheme. So the types of projects, we have split them into 2 types for this year: water quality actions and water quality awareness. So the actions would be kind of physical work that might be in stream, like riparian management, tree planting, creating new habitat, removal of invasive species, silt trapping, managing floods or pollution, and implementing SUDs and match funding. I've included that this year specifically because groups weren't aware maybe that they could apply for match funding for bigger projects such as LEADER. So the awareness projects, and there might be an element of actions and awareness to your project. These are just kind of a few ideas of water conservation, stewardship, adaptive water body, events, workshops, schools visits. Linda, you did a lovely project there where you brought the schools down to the rivers. It was really beautiful, and you sent in some lovely pictures on that. Thank you. Social media tools and digital media tools. A lot of those types of awareness ones are coming in now that are more kind of in the virtual world. Citizen science projects, general amenities, surveys, plans, and signage. As I said, there's only a few ideas. This resource is available on our website. It was developed in-house with Fran Igo spearheading it a couple of years ago, and it's a very handy resource to have. You can click that link to download it, and it just gives you a proper example of types of projects. I'll just come to Leader now again in a minute. So why it's a guide for community groups that we targeted specifically that we apply for Leader funding. There's our timeframes for this year. So you can see now we're in the launch phase and the closing date is the 8th of February. And we would hope to have all of our evaluations done and letters of offer out by Easter. And then the projects have until the 31st of October to be complete, and the drawdown forms for the 15th of November. So as I said, we're still up to our neck in trying to get the grants paid out. And there's quite a big admin and audit function in that. So there's our community water officers. Any of you here will be familiar with who is in your area. You can get their contact details on our website. That's just a picture of them, so you'll know what they look like. So just, when you're doing your projects, think of your projects, think of your catchment. This was, I actually pulled this. This is just a summary of what I included in the last slide of the list. This is actually coming from that booklet. So I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but I had used this slide before. I didn't realize it was on transition. But that's just the central page of that booklet to give you ideas. And the booklet gives case studies and examples of projects as well. So what we will not fund is, again, projects that benefit an individual. So if a consultant wants to apply, they can apply. They can be the consultant to the project by sending in a quotation. And we do accept just one quotation. Like, it is better to have more than one, but if you only have one, that's fine. So if, say, an ecologist is in your locality and you want them to do the work, in reality, they can do it, but it's best if the community group apply. Because I have noticed that sometimes it is the consultant who is the applicant, which isn't best practice, because there is benefit to them. Staffing in schools, transport costs, except in exceptional circumstances, and that's where the bus hire would come in as exceptional circumstance, because you have to bring the children to the site to go and do their kick sampling. Equipment, unless directly associated with the project. Again, if the equipment is kick nets for our trays or bug identification kits, that's fine. Income generating projects. So if you develop a calendar, really you can't sell it. Overheads, ongoing running costs. So your rent, rates, anything like that isn't included. Insurance isn't included. Accommodation and subsistence, and staff and volunteer costs. So sometimes groups think that they can actually charge the project for the volunteer cost. That can be included as a match funding, but we can't actually physically pay an invoice for our voluntary labour. But we have been a lot more lenient since COVID, and we are paying on vouched expenditure when it comes to drawdown stage. So that's just something to bear in mind. The assessment criteria are fairly simple. The status of the water body, community, landowner, public body engagement, actions proposed, potential impact on the catchment if it's a large scale project over 10,000, or benefits to the community if it's a smaller scale project, and ability to finance and manage the project.
Sorry, Sheevaun, just go back to that slide a minute, please.
Yeah.
What's the 1 to 5 there? Is that the scoring?
That's the scoring when it comes to behind the scenes of our, so initially when the applications come in, our community water officers over that area, they will screen the applications, and they don't score them, but they'll screen them in terms of is everything on the file, and they might chase up a group if there's something missing, or I might chase up the group if there's something missing. And then our catchment scientists will score them based on the screening and on the application that is submitted. So it's a score of 1 to 5. Yeah. So I'll just come to that now that you'll see that on the. Did you have another question, Niall?
No, thank you. Just thinking it.
Yeah. So on the status of the water bodies, say, if you are in a priority area for action, at risk water body, or in a blue dot or high status objective, you will get 4 or 5 out of 5 under that category. Otherwise, you'll get 3, 2, or 1. So it's basically, we give a higher priority to groups, and we also give a higher rate of funding to groups to water bodies in those areas. So we give up to 90% of grants if you're in a PAA, at risk, or blue dot or high status, and up to 75% otherwise. However, you have to bear in mind that quite often you might apply for up to 90% but only get 45% or 50%, depending on, you know, the volume that we get in terms of the demand for the fund. So not all projects will get the 75% or the 90%. In fact, in reality, quite often you might only get 50%. Now, we do try and give as much as we can, but what might be decided at assessment stage is that maybe one project element wasn't suited to our fund and shouldn't be funded at all. So that feedback is put on the portal, and we can, through the water officer or myself, can relay that back to you as to why you didn't get the full amount that you looked for. So in the application, we need you to demonstrate how your proposal involves other groups or public bodies or landowners. And if there's any special permissions, you have to include them, or planning permission. We have to have evidence that you consulted with other agencies if you need to. So if you need to consult an NPWS or the OPW or Inland Fisheries, that's all in the guidelines, but we need to get evidence of that. And we need to show how you interact with the wider community. And we have a question in the application form this year, just how you have, you know, how you engage with the wider audience. Have you an engagement plan, basically? So it could be good to have an engagement plan and include that as well. Actions proposed. So you really need a clearly defined aims and objectives. It's probably best if you include bullet points, because it's very easy to read, you know, or not necessarily bullet points, but short sentences, you know, that flow nicely and that are easy to read, because the applications aren't printed anymore. So neat handwriting or your font won't make a difference. It has to, the portal is very, you know, it's kind of a bit drab to look at. So if it's all clustered, it's harder to read. So just to tick there, I'm just going to ask somebody, George, would you mind leaving the room? Because I have a child here who is on his headphones and he's kicking the table. Will you go out to the other room, Pet? George? Thank you. He's just going to leave now, I think, if you heard me. So be realistic and fit the time frame of the Community Water Development Fund. So like the project has to be finished by the 31st of October. So there's no point in having a 3-year plan. What you can have is phase 1 of your 3-year plan, to try and break it into modules, because, you know, we have to have it drawn down. And like sometimes groups are too ambitious and then they can't deliver on the project and they're faced with having to transfer it over to next year. And we have to put a request to the department to do that. And then they can't apply for the next call. And we did make some exceptions last year and accepted some applications, but really we shouldn't be doing that, because it's not fair on the groups who are diligent and have sent in their drawdown forms. We ask you to include a method statement where appropriate, and anything that you think is relevant to your application, like letters of support, or, you know, any other thing that you think should come into it. There's plenty of room there for uploading attachments. And this year, again, there's a focus on multiple benefits and climate action and biodiversity and nature all in a package. So if you can demonstrate that, we have a question there as well in the application. So the impact on the catchment or benefits to the community, as I said, the impact on the catchment will be for the bigger scale project. So if it's a small scale project, we don't expect it to have an impact on the whole catchment. So don't be too worried about it. But some of the bigger projects will score and could get a 5 out of 5 in this potentially, if there is a catchment benefit, and particularly if there's a water quality catchment benefit to it. We would give extra marks if it's a best practice project, if it's a pilot project, if it's replicable in other areas, if it could be rolled out further, and if there are water quality benefits to it. So the ability to finance and manage the project. So you must have a bank account in the group's name. It is advisable that you have a cash contribution, that you can demonstrate that your group has some money in the bank to give it some cash to it. If not, that's okay too. You know, we don't penalise banks if they don't have groups, if they don't have any money in their bank account, because they could fundraise or they could get match funding from somewhere else. Voluntary labour, we will take that. And as I said, we have paid on vouched expenditure this year and last year. So we haven't been strict in enforcing the drawdown. Once you have spent money, we have paid on it. But we still try to capture voluntary labour, because it's very important when we're reporting back to the department that we can show that X amount was spent, you know, at 14 euros an hour at volunteers' cost. So it's good to fill out that sheet regardless. Try and demonstrate good value for money. that you have sought 2 quotations or 3 quotations, if you can. Procurement should be followed for the bigger projects. If you have other funders or funding bids, let us know about them, because that shows your capacity, that you have a good track record. You should have your insurance in place and relevant policies in place, like child protection if you are going down to the river or whatever. You must show that you engage with your community water officer. And I suppose the thing to always think about, is your proposal the right fit for the fund? And could it fit somewhere else? So potential impacts on the catchment. For bigger projects, outline the water quality benefits if you can at all. And for the small projects, benefits may be more local, and that's fine too. So that's just a whistle-stop tour of the open call. As I said, we'll be doing a clinic. I'll get a few of our community water officers on board. I am aiming for the week of the 10th of January. So it will be more the portal and other logistics of it, and a Q&A session will be included in that. And I would imagine that there will be a bigger attendance, because it'll be just focused on the Community Water Development Fund and nothing else. So and groups at that stage will have registered on the portal and will need to get their ducks in a row. So I think there could be a big crowd at it.